Hi, welcome. My name is Gerard Cachon, and
Hey, I'm Christian Terwiesch.
we're the authors of a new textbook, Operations Management. We're really excited about it. Let's first introduce ourselves. I'm the chair of the Operations Information Decisions Department here at Wharton. Been studying operations management for 20 years, and a former editor of Management Science.
Yeah, so my name is Christian Terwiesch. You can hear from the accent that I am German. That shows up in the humor of the book. Being German is also very productive to be an operations management person. So it's very structured, very organized, and at least the writing doesn't have any German accent to it.
In case you're wondering, my name might be Gerard Philippe Cachon, but I don't speak any French, which doesn't influence the quality of an operations management book.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. Maybe we should start off just explaining what made us write first edition in the book, especially in the textbook market, especially given that we had with matching supply and demand a title that did pretty well.
So, if we had to say one in a sort of a nutshell, what our book is, how our book is different, it's an emphasis on real operations. We use examples throughout the whole book that come from the real world. Many of these are cases that we worked on with companies in our consulting and in our research. We took many of some of their data and introduced it in part of the cases for students to work on. And then we weaved these examples throughout each of the chapters. They're not merely side boxes, but they're integral parts of the chapter so that students can see how operations can be applied in the real world.
And I think we were creative in terms of how we picked companies. I mean, we had the real operations theme already in our old book, but this book that we really wrote from scratch again, we wrote primarily with a focus on the undergraduate market. Gerard and I both have children in high school and in college, and really talking to our kids to state the obvious really made us realize what this market kind of, or what this students population, how they learn differently compared to teaching executives. And so we have picked the cases in the book so that oftentimes the students would be familiar with these companies as consumers. So we talk about Subway sandwiches, we talk about Amazon, we talk about call centers, healthcare settings, and many settings that the students will be familiar with as consumers of these services, not as maybe the executives designing them, but as the consumers having experienced the service side.
That's something I experienced when I've been teaching the core class here at Wharton in the undergraduate program. And students come up to me afterwards and say that they have a whole new perspective on the world. They can't go through the queue at the security line at the airport at the same way because we talked about bottlenecks and process flows and don't starve the bottleneck and concepts like this. Bringing real world operations into the textbook, into the curriculum that they experience really makes them more engaged and more excited about it.
Yeah, we mentioned the old book before. We really had the luxury in this book. We took the time and rewrote everything from scratch. That was a lot of work. I mean, our fingers still hurt. But I think the benefit of redesigning a book from scratch is you have now, experienced the writing process the first time. And so you now can write the book that you ever wanted to write because you learn a ton as you go through the writing process of any book. It's just like at the end of your career, you have learned a lot of things, and really McRoyal gave us the opportunity of starting all anew again, and I think that shows a lot. And then second, there's this focus on more of the undergraduate market rather than in the MBA executive market that is geared towards executives who are practicing this stuff. This is geared much more towards people who have a first course in operations management and might be 19 or 20 years old.
Now, even though we wrote the book completely from scratch, if you're familiar with our original book, you'll recognize many of it. So the original book also, we focused on real operations, and we put a lot of emphasis on trying to make sure that our writing style was accessible to the students, so that they could learn the material. It could be complicated material, but we want to make sure that every student can grasp that. That sort of philosophy of real operations with a real simple writing style, that we still applied in the new book, even though it was a complete rewrite from the ground up.
Another benefit of starting a new book is that the first book I think we started around, must have been 2003 or so.
Yep.
This one was more like 2013, and That's just 10 years, but I think a lot of things have changed in these 10 years, especially in the case of kind of educational technology. So I had started teaching on Coursera, the operations management course. I've had hundreds of thousands of students there. And that really makes you think about learning and scaling learning to a large audience in a very different way than we ever had before. The first thing, and McGraw helped us a great deal with that, is you have to be very concise in your learning objectives. So we have broken up each chapter very specifically with 4, 5, 6 learning objectives. Each learning objectives, again, has sub-learning objectives. So you have a very, very detailed map of really what you want to get accomplished. And then we use the Connect platform, just kind of the technology that is now available through McGraw, to really make the instructor and the student just much more productive in the learning process.
Yeah, so as Christian mentioned, 10 years on from our first book, we have more modern examples in it. We've written many more practice problems, so compared to our original book, there is a ton more questions for students to work on. There's the Connect platform, there's the Learn Smart platform, and then, as he mentioned, the learning objectives. This allows an instructor to customize the book, saying these are the learning objectives I want, and these are the learning objectives that the student will see. And then the students can see the questions that are relevant for those learning objectives. So it's a much stronger, tighter-knit pedagogical product.
And we found really that students really appreciate mastering a new tool and solving a particular type of practice problems. Nothing frustrates students more than these open-ended, wishy-washy, blah-blah type of questions about what's the role of globalization in operations or what's the role of ethics in a supply chain. We feel that students want to master skills. And so the way we introduce a skill is a part of a learning objective. The learning objective gets first motivated in the chapter. Why is that important? It then gets through some basic formulas and definitions. That gets to a check your understanding question, which is very, very simple. Right after reading the paragraphs, the student is invited to check their understanding. Can I replicate what Gerard and Christian want me to learn here? And then later on, it goes into practice problems, into more advanced practice problems, and then ultimately into case studies where students can really make sure that they're not just understanding that little formula, but they see the bigger context. But it really all starts with building the student capability in solving a very particular type of problems. I think that makes students feel good, and quite frankly, it's also for us as faculty much easier to test the students if they got that part of the learning journey right.
I think that's one thing we learned from our first textbook was take what we had before, which we think was quite good, and how do we make it even simpler for students to absorb this material, and this building block approach of give them the context, give them the motivation, start them off with simpler problems, check their understanding as along the way, show them a solved practice problem, show them more practice problems that they can work through, and eventually build up to a case where they can then take this idea and apply it to something that seems tangible. That's the formula we've applied to each of the chapters.
So we're really excited about the book. I hope you take a look, consider it, let us know if you have any questions, and stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Please do. Thank you.